Welcome to the Graduation Initiative Symposium 2025. My name is Sabrina Sanders. I'm the Director of Student Affairs Projects and Initiatives at the Office of the Chancellor. On behalf of the Office of the Chancellor, we'd like to thank each of you for being here today. Those of you sitting in this audience, to those of you coordinating this event, those of you presenting throughout the next 2 days, those serving us, those preparing our food in the kitchen, those hosting us here in this space, allow us to all give you a great big thank you. We also want to welcome our colleagues who are live streaming from campus. For the next 2 days, we'll be live streaming our keynote speakers for most of our breakout sessions, all online. They will also all be recorded and posted for access for the next year. You can also access our program and an engagement guide if you're hosting any viewing parties back on campus to engage in questions and answers and discussions. If you'd like to engage with social media, please use the hashtag #GradInitiative2025 to engage with your California State University communities and beyond. Now, to begin our program, please welcome to the stage Dr. James Miner, Assistant Vice Chancellor and Senior Strategist.
Good afternoon. It took some restraint for me not to dance coming up the steps, but I made it. It is really good to see you all here this afternoon. I cannot tell you the number of meetings that we've had for this moment, and so it really is gratifying to see us all gathered here this afternoon. I want to begin just by taking a moment of personal privilege, not only to thank you for the time away from your campus and your loved ones. Yesterday, somebody reminded me that this would require them to be away from their pet for a couple of days. So pets included. We appreciate you being here. But I want to begin with by taking a point of personal privilege, if I can. I want to publicly acknowledge the individuals, the group of individuals who are responsible for the planning and the attention to all of the many details that create this occasion. Their names are in the program, but I won't call them all here, but I do want to lead the first round of public applause and appreciation for their efforts. Thank you. You may not know them by name. We had a good laugh at the fact that many of them are dressed alike today. And so I won't ask you for much over the next 2 days, but if it's not too big of a burden, I would ask for you to just take a moment to personally thank them today or tomorrow before you depart. I would certainly appreciate it. In preparation for the symposium, each year we host a round of telephone calls or conference calls with guest speakers and presenters to talk them through the logistics of the occasion and the context for the graduation initiative. And they often ask one question very consistently, and that is for me to describe the audience. And I have consistently said, you will be speaking to a collection of dedicated CSU leaders who collectively have the power to transform the largest and most diverse university in the nation. And that's a very powerful statement. Inside of those conversations, I'm often reminded of the power of this room. When you look around this ballroom, you're likely to see university leaders that influence virtually every aspect of our university system in this room gathered here today. It's powerful because most of us understand the consequences for students and their families when they're successful and they earn a college degree. But we also know the stakes for students who depart without a diploma. And so I just want you to take a moment to think about the power that is in this room. And so much of the work that we advance together, I often find myself reminding constituent groups that while access remains vitally important, it is earning a high-quality degree that truly transforms the lives of CSU students. Earning a bachelor degree not only transforms the lives of individual students and their families, it changes their entire family tree. It enriches their communities, and it ensures economic and social mobility. And so most of you in the room know that the Graduation Initiative establishes these ambitious goals to dramatically improve graduation rates and to completely close equity gaps. And this symposium is the time that we come together as a community to take stock of how we're progressing as a community. And so today, I am pleased to announce the pleased to announce should have given you a little clue. I am pleased to announce that the graduation rates for the 2018-2019 academic year indeed show improvement from the previous year. Yeah. But first let me say that the number of bachelor's degrees earned by CSU students again reached an all-time high. But let's take a look by category. What you see there on the screen are the four-year graduation rates, and you'll see that that rate has increased to 27%, up 2 percentage points from the previous year. And think about this, up 8 percentage points since 2015. The person seated next to you and maybe even across the table is responsible for doing the work that makes that happen. The 6-year rate increased to 62%. This remains above the national average for public universities and 7 percentage points away from our goal. The rate at which transfer students are graduating 2 years after arriving to a CSU campus increased to 40%, just 5 percentage points away from the goal. And the graduation rate for transfer students after 4 years increased to 77%, 8 percentage points away from the goal. Now, some might look at these percentage point increases as insignificant or marginal. Tony and I had a conversation this morning with a reporter, and that was the suggestion. But we all know that each of these percentage points represents thousands of students. And I cannot imagine telling their families that they're insignificant or they're marginal. My colleague Jeff Gold would say that there's never been a better time to be a CSU student. Now, Jeff, I don't know where you are, but there are some folks who graduated in the 70s that have already started to refute this notion, vigorously in some cases. But that's not what we mean. What we mean is if you are a CSU student today, your chances of earning a degree have never been better, and that is quite significant. So as we appreciate the hard-fought gains in graduation rates, there is also a sobering reality to accompany them, and that is the equity gaps held steady compared to last year. Now, we have always known that it is entirely possible to increase graduation rates, and if not attentive, the equity gaps could remain stagnant or even grow. Everything we know about the equity gaps and why they exist in the first place tells us that without intentional effort, without relentless focus, and without better and more sophisticated uses of data, these gaps will be difficult to close. But more promising is the fact that we know that our collective efforts today may not be immediately reflected in the annual progress rates. So this is not a moment to be discouraged. Instead, I think it should represent a call to double down, to scrutinize your campus data in search of solutions, and to collectively impose our commitment to equity. This is why this room is so important. In this remarkable season of progress for the CSU, your leadership matters. What you do, what we do collectively, will determine the arc of our impact on thousands of deserving Californians. That is what this symposium is all about. I now want to invite the leader to the podium. Would you please join me in welcoming the Chancellor of the California State University, Tim White.
You don't want me to dance, that's for sure. Well, good afternoon, and thank you, James. Wow, what a wonderful turnout. Just impressed. I think it's really informative also to recognize that we have a quorum of the Board of Trustees here today, and we're probably in some violation of some obscure law. But the vice chair of our board is Lily Kimbell. We have Doug Fagan and Deborah Farrar, Wenda Fong, Romy Sebelius, Juan Fernando Garcia, Jane Carney, Mariana Kames, Jack McGrory. They're all present. Others are watching. Isn't that wonderful? And Chair Adam Day regrettably has a job to do in San Diego and sends both his regrets, his regards, and his gratefulness to all of you. So with that many trustees and most of the presidents are here as well, my only advice is if you're presenting, don't screw up. But I want to echo James' welcome. This is our 4th symposium. To me, it's one of the most significant yearly gatherings, convenings that we do as a university, and it's certainly among my favorite. They give all of those, it gives an opportunity for those of you on the front line to share with others on the front line, but also to inform many other people about the student success initiatives on your campus and how the university can continue to improve its performance in serving California. As you gather with colleagues across the system, we reflect on the challenges and successes, but we also identify what's working and what just, quite frankly, isn't getting done. And how do we either abandon that and try something new or make modifications to make it work. And of course, to share data on all of the practices, the so-called high impact, the ones that make a great return on the investment of time, energy, and money, again, singularly focused on our students' achievement and their success. This symposium gives me and others a chance to recognize the progress we've made, and as James just said, it's quite remarkable. Graduation rates have improved across the board. 4-year rates and less than or equal to 6-year rates, so let's not lose track of that. That if you go a semester beyond 4, your data as a student gets counted by the federal government, the IPEDS data, as a 6-year graduation rate, even if you got done in 4.5 years. So it's really important to remember that. But any way you do it, those are up. The ones for our transfer students, whether they get through in 2, 3, or 4 years, those are up as well. They're at actually all-time highs in the history of this university, and that's something to be proud of. So let's pause for a moment and think what that actually means. So for every percentage point improvement we make in our 4-year graduation rate, that opens up across the university's 23 campuses. 1 percentage point improvement opens up 2,500 seats for new students. That's a lot. And that's between 9,000 and 10,000 additional seats in classrooms and laboratories and clinics. That's profound. So your collective and coordinated effort to help all of our students graduate in a more timely manner allowed us this last year in June of 2019 to award a record number of baccalaureate degrees, 107,319 degrees. That's 20,000 more degrees than just 4 years ago in 2015. Yeah, I heard a couple whistles. Come on, work with me. All right, 20,000 more degrees. Now work with me. If they were all here and they joined hands, they would extend from this podium to the Sacramento airport and back. I was hoping it was to get to the Sierra Nevada Brewery at Chico, but that's 90 miles away. So we have 4 more years. It'll be to the Sierra Nevada Brewery, and they won't come back. So just seriously, though, think about how many individuals and families and communities with 20,000 more, each now with $1 million more in their earning income over their work lifetime, what that really means to those individuals. And as they get through even one term sooner than they might have otherwise, they avoid $13,000 just like that in cost avoidance. So there's a financial gain not only to the state of California but to our students as well. So I want to say that this is impressive, its impact is vital, it's tangible. I congratulate all of you in this room and those who are joining us either in live stream or will look at this in the archives. It is really your skilled and dedicated work. I couldn't be more pleased, nor could I be more grateful for the efforts, your demonstrated commitment, and the success we're having. But we know every time in a university when you celebrate success, you always need to realize that there's more work to be done. And as James mentioned, and as we know, the equity gaps remain stubborn. The gaps narrowed last year compared to the year before, and now they're 0.5%, 0.4% variant from that. So probably not statistically significant, but this isn't about statistics, it's about individuals. And so we're gonna sort of say it held steady this year, and how do we continue then? All boats rose. Those who are Pell recipients got higher graduation rates. Those who come from the underserved communities, ethnically and racially defined, got better, but the gaps didn't change. Not surprised. We knew this was a big lift, this moonshot of ours to get rid of the equity gaps. But all of our students are doing better. But that is not our goal. It is not our great calling. Being the country's, and therefore the world's, most ethnically and racially diverse university, at a time in society when a college degree has never been more important, regardless of one's career or careers or presence in the gig economy. This most diverse generation of students, it would only get more diverse as time goes forward from here. And these students are looking to us. They're looking to us to be certain that they have the opportunity, that key for that brighter future that a baccalaureate degree provides in America. It's never been more critical. It is really a true equity opportunity for all of us, that regardless of somebody with the aptitude and the preparation to do the work, and the willingness to do the work, regardless of income or background, race, gender, ethnicity, or status, that they should have an opportunity to succeed. I've been thinking a lot about equity lately, and I think it's time to change the story about what equity really is. To me, it can no longer be limited to just access, to getting in. My kid got in. Yay. Well, so what? What happens when they get in? Equity has to be evaluated based on the authentic, genuine access and success in classrooms, in laboratories, in clinics, in the fields, and out in the community. But really, when you think about that, That's not equity fully fleshed in either. It seems to me that the litmus test for equity must be in California and in the California State University. It must be judged on degree completion and what that degree completion means for their career. And it is only then, when those who come from the spectrum of society have the ability to compete in whatever area they're interested in, then I think we can say we've achieved equity in California and hopefully then lead America to find equity. So let's think about equity not getting in, but getting out and doing something when you're out that's meaningful for self, for family, for community, and for California and the country. I'd like you to think about that the next couple of days. This is a challenge of our time. It's an ambitious goal to get rid of these gaps. But let me speak plainly. I know from experience elsewhere, and I know from experience we're having on many of our campuses in the CSU, not all yet. To get rid of equity gaps is within reach. It is achievable. We will succeed at it. It may take time, but don't let time get in the way of vision, goal, and a moral imperative to do better. We are making progress. Much of the work we've already invested is going to turn benefits in the years ahead already, improving the advising models, initiatives to increase the number of credits that students take and the support to actually be successful with those. The executive orders 1110 show promise to be really a game changer when it comes to equity gaps when those first cohorts graduate in 2022. So move forward with confidence, with redoubled efforts, but let's start today at this symposium and tomorrow. Maybe tonight over an adult beverage if you're over 21, but I got interested in an adult beverage apparently. This is sort of interesting. The adult beverage was an ad lib, and then the next line in my prepared comments says, squeeze every drop out of it. Trying to return to a professional meeting, let me just say, seek out colleagues, engage with them. Leave this convening with 3 new ideas and take them back to campus and do it. Just try it. See what happens. Leave here with a heightened intentionality of effort and a heightened pride in achievements to date as we lead California. This cohort that just landed in the fall of 19 is no more important than the ones that preceded or will follow. But they're a little bit like the canary in the tunnel. They represent that critical moment of the CSU, because it is this current group of students who just landed that will determine whether we reach our goals for the less than or equal to 6-year graduation rates and equity gaps. So as they arrive, positive momentum builds, and as the state, as well as the foundations, many of whom are in this room today, have believed in us and have invested in us, and for that, I am very grateful. But let's take advantage of this opportunity. Let's seize this moment and continue with a new unity of purpose to help our students achieve, succeed, graduate, and become very engaged and productive members of a very divided society, one in which a good career and civic engagement is so vital for all of our well-being going forward. I want to thank you for being here today, and I want to thank you for your efforts and take advantage of the time we're together. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cynthia Mejia, and I'm a graduating senior majoring in International Relations at Sacramento State University. It is It is my pleasure to introduce our opening speaker this afternoon, Dr. Michael Sorrell, president of Paul Quinn College in Dallas, Texas. Dr. Sorrell has become nationally renowned for his innovative and bold leadership of Paul Quinn College, a campus that has undergone a tremendous transformation during his presidency. With a focus on using higher education to address problems affecting society, and especially the community surrounding Paul Quinn College, Dr. Sorrell has pushed his campus to resist business as usual in supporting student success, with one of the most extraordinary examples being the conversion of its football field into an organic farm to serve the campus and its community. Without further ado, I would like to ask that you all join me in welcoming Dr. Michael Sorrell to further discuss movement toward institutional transformation.
Just let me say from the outset, I'm from Chicago, so this whole New York Empire State of Mind theme music, not really my thing, okay? Secondly, it's a little discerning to see your face this big on the monitor right here. I'm a little scared, okay? It is wonderful to be here with you this afternoon. I want to thank my good friend James Minor. Can we give him a big round of applause? He is continuing the fine work that he did in Washington, and it is obvious as we sit here that the direction that you all are on is inspiring. I was just absolutely amazed by the things the Chancellor talked about, the goals, and just looking out over the room, I see a room full of people who are hopeful, who are engaged, who understand why they're here, and have a mission and a purpose. So as we talk about what we're going to talk about today, there we go. As we talk about what we're going to talk about today, I realize that you don't need me to inspire you because you're already inspired. What I do want to talk to you about is what comes after the inspiration. What happens when you make a commitment to do something revolutionary and the revolution actually starts and people start firing back. Because that happens when you're engaged in change. That happens when you're engaged in transformation. It's all fun and games when it's all fun and games. But what happens when people start questioning your ideas? When they start pushing back about the progress that you're making? Maybe the progress doesn't seem as big to them, or maybe it's just not what they signed up for. Because let's be clear, this stuff is hard. It is hard once you make the easy changes and you see the initial ascent in data. But what happens when you get to the winter of change? When it's a little bit harder to move those numbers a few more decimal points. When you start questioning whether or not this is really what you signed up for. Surprise, it is what you signed up for. You are in it now by virtue of the fact that you're in this room. We are in it now. Students like Cynthia, who, by the way, can we show her love for being a graduating senior? I love graduating seniors for lots of reasons, not the least of which they raise all of your numbers, right? So thank you. But we're going to talk about today, through an example of what we've gone through, what it takes to sustain change, what it takes to constantly be committed to innovation, and the courage that it takes to keep going, right? So is that okay, or do you want to talk about something else? That's not really like, yeah, that's okay. Well, it's too late now, right? This is what we're in for, all right? Don't change your thing. Don't change your thing? Oh, thank you. All right. So I want to start out with a quote from one of my favorite Texans, Barbara Jordan. Barbara Jordan, when I moved to Texas, I tried to read up on some of the great heroes of the state. And I didn't read about the Alamo and all that stuff. I read about the political heroes and the statespeople. And Barbara Jordan was one of the greatest. And in her biography that I read, she asked a question. People talked about all the stuff that she did. Barbara, how'd you find the energy? How'd you find the courage? And she simply said, when do any of us ever do enough? So as you enter the winter of change, I want you to remember that quote. When it gets a little hard and you're wondering why you do so much, remember the great woman Barbara Jordan when she asked us, when do any of us ever do enough? Because this is why it matters. America is at war against our future. And I want you to let that sink in for a little bit, because that's what we're going to talk about over the next few slides, what this war in our future actually looks like. This picture isn't just some stock photo. This picture is an actual person living in her actual home. And if we question that, I will tell you, I have students who live in places like that. And I know that because for some of my students, I've actually been in their homes. I walk their neighborhoods, I visit their high schools, right? Because I think if people are going to send you their children, you should have the respect for them to see where they come from. Right? You should want to know everything that you can about their lives. And some of our students, increasingly in this country, live in places like this. And here's the proof. We now live in a country where more than half of our students are coming from low-income communities. The entire southern rung of our country lives, the majority of students in public K through 12 education are coming from low-income communities. The great state of California, 55% of the students are coming out of these communities. Do you know what it's like to live in the trauma of poverty? Right? Do you know what that causes? Almost every negative outcome in life is exacerbated by growing up in poverty. And yet, we live in a country where the majority of our students in a public education are living that way, and somehow we have lulled ourselves into thinking it's okay, because if it wasn't okay, it wouldn't still exist. So not enough of us are infuriated about this. Now, I know I'm preaching to the converted, because you all have also already made it clear that you care. But I'm telling you, because some of you have friends that don't go to the same church, and they're going to need to hear this sermon. So I'm just giving you some text, all right? I like this side of the room. I'm going to go stand over there. Don't try and make a comeback. They already beat you to it, all right? All right. So we need to understand that. We have to understand America's at war against our future when the reality of our situation is our students are growing up in poverty. Our students aren't prepared for college. 45% of the students who took the SAT this year, or last year, excuse me, didn't make a college-ready score. Now, you might think, well, 45%, they're getting there. That's just the students who thought they were college material. That's not all of our students. The number is significantly lower than that. These are just the ones who thought they might be ready for college. They weren't. And it's particularly devastating when you look at these next two numbers, because the 29%, that represents our Latino brothers and sisters who had college-ready scores. The 20%, that represents our African-American brothers and sisters who took the SAT and made college-ready scores. Our students aren't prepared. It's hard to believe that we're not at war against our future when these are our numbers. Our graduates are unprepared. Do you know 79% of employers want their entry-level hires to come to them with with real-world work experience or entry-level jobs? I thought you got trained at entry-level. Apparently, even the entry-level jobs want you to have experience now. Well, what makes that even worse is that half of college graduates wish that college had helped them gain real-world work experience. So 79% of the employers want the students to have something that we didn't give them. 50% of the students want something that we haven't given them. It's hard to argue that we're not at war against our future when we aren't living up to the promise and the expectations that the employers have and that the students themselves have. Part of the reason for this is because we at traditional higher education, we're out of touch. 75% of college students now work more than 20 hours per week. 40% of undergraduates and 76% of graduate students work at least 30 hours per week. Let me tell you why these numbers are so important. Because the data has shown us that once you get past 20 hours per week, it has a negative impact on your academic performance. So think about this for a moment. What you need to provide you the resources to go to school is compromising your ability to succeed while you're in school, which then compromises your ability to get a job which lifts you and your family out of poverty in a sustainable fashion. It is a horrible cycle that we have to beat. But it's hard to do that when higher education hasn't stopped to listen, hasn't stopped to engage. And again, I recognize, given the fact that you all already understand these types of things, you get this. But not enough of us do. And we have to change that. Now, here's one everyone talks about. It's too expensive. 70% of college graduates have significant student loan debt. 70%. 44 million Americans have $1.5 trillion in student loan debt. I asked my 9-year-old if he knew what that meant. He just said, "Daddy, that's lots of commas and zeros." Okay? That's not where we want them having commas and zeros. The average student loan debt now is over $37,000 a year for undergrad. What are you going to do when it's time to go to graduate school? I spoke a couple weeks ago to families that were over $200,000 in debt for their children just to go to college. Now, we can argue about the decisions that they made, but the reality of it is they were trying to do better for their kids. And we have left them with a debt that they will bury themselves with. That's not right. We can do better than that. Again, it's hard to argue that we aren't at war against our future when these are our numbers. Here's something else you need to realize. The Calvary's not coming, right? Billionaires in 2017 made so much money that they could have ended poverty 7 times over. Here's a little surprise. They didn't do it. All right? They didn't do it. We still have poverty with us. Now, I'm not telling them that they have to forego their wealth. I am a capitalist at heart. I think you should get paid. I want all my students to be rich, okay, because I want them to donate back to their alma mater, right? But the reality of it is, if the people who could solve the problem aren't going to solve the problem, then it's on us. It's on us to answer the call. This is what answering the call looks like at Paul Quinn College. Welcome to the Quinnite Nation. This is Jasmine Norman. She's a senior at Paul Quinn College. She's from Memphis. Yeah. Amen to another senior. See, we have friends over there too for you, okay? Jasmine graduated number 2 in her class at Memphis Frederick Douglass High School. And every couple of years, we do a project with a group called Dear World. And they come out, and you know Dear World because you're not at your... Thank you. That's one person, so I'm going to talk to you about this, right? So at Dear World, they come out and you write on your body words and messages that reflect who you are and what you want people to know about you. Let me take a look at this crowd. So maybe about 20 of you look like you know Tupac, okay? Tupac was a rhythmic American poet, okay? AKA he's a rapper, all right? And he wrote this amazing book of poetry. And in one of the poems, he talked about the rose that grew from the concrete. Jasmine wants you to know she's a rose that grew from the concrete. Now, at Paul Quinn College at CSU, we know that roses grow from the concrete. We also know that every rose doesn't bloom on the first day of spring. But we don't think that it should be so hard for roses to grow. Maybe roses can grow out of the concrete, but that doesn't mean that they should have to. Jasmine Norman is one of our best. We are lucky to have her, and we are lucky to be advocates for students like her. 40% of our students come from outside the state of Texas. A lot of them come from California. Thank you, because you can't have them all. All right? You got to share, okay? You got to share. But 40% come from outside the state of Texas, and another 20% are Latinos. Now, people are always surprised about 20% of your students at an HBCU are Latino. It's like, yeah, we don't keep people from coming. That's what people did to us, all right? That's why we were created, okay? We know what that feels like, all right? All we want to know is you want to be there. all right, and that you subscribe to our values. And here's what we believe. Let's talk about our values. We believe that in higher education, institutions of higher education should turn themselves outward and address the needs of the day, not just the needs that people will pay. We spend a lot of money on research and not enough money on the things that our students need. And you want to talk about student services, right? You want to talk about that? How about we devote ourselves to those? Really, the only reason I'm standing here today is because this is what we've done. Everything that we do is answering the call of our students, period. And we do that because our institutional ethos is we over me. The needs of a community supersede the wants of an individual. You don't get to be selfish at Paul Quinn College. We exist to solve the problems of the people who need us, right? The people who need us. We think that's what all institutions should do, and we're proud to do that. Here's some other things we believe. We think poverty is evil. We think debt is bad. We think the idea that schools tell people that the way out of poverty is debt might be one of the two most stupid things we've ever heard in our lives. All right, think about that for a moment. You're telling people who are in poverty to go into debt to get out of poverty. How about we just not ask them to go into such great debt? That might be the fastest way out of poverty. People always talk about education is a way out of poverty. Money is actually the way out of poverty, right? Being a good steward of money will help you get out of poverty, all right? We also think that everyone can learn. What we have learned is not everyone is prepared to teach the students in their classrooms, okay? You need to have the cultural competency to educate the students you have, not the ones you wish you had, not the ones you might have had 10 years ago, all right? When I was a little boy, my parents used to play this song that, I'm not going to sing it because I'm a terrible singer, but it talked about if you can't be with the one you love, love the one you're with, right? Y'all act like you don't know that song. Some of you have hairlines that say you know that song, okay? Let's be clear, all right? I have one of those hairlines too, okay? My point is, meet people where they are and lift them to the places their dreams should be, right? And that starts in the classroom with them. Really stop and see them, right? I teach every year, right? Because I want to know who my students are. I want to know what they care about. I want to know what their lives are like. Because how am I supposed to make decisions for their best interest if I don't even know them, right? And every year I have to retool what I do because my students give me something else in order for me to be relevant with them, right? So we think everyone can learn. We just think the challenge is developing teachers who can teach them. And then we think the basic contract in higher education is that our next must always be better than our now. That's the bet. People don't send you their kids because they want them to be sent back worse off than you got them, right? No, the next must be better than now. Every day we should be asking ourselves, are we doing things that ensure that that will happen? Here are our values. We believe in the 4 L's of Quinnite leadership. Lead places better than you found them. Lead from wherever you are. Live a life that matters and love something greater than yourself, right? Simple standards. But if you're going to have the courage to be a revolutionary, you have to have values. And you have to remember your values because they're going to be tested regularly. We have a character test. We teach our students and we teach ourselves to choose the harder right over the easier wrong without apparent regard to self-interest. You don't get to be selfish if you're going to lead. You don't get to be selfish if you're going to have the courage to be a revolutionary. That's not how this works. We teach our students closed mouths don't get fed. That seems like a basic concept. But if you have spent your life in poverty, 85% of our students are on Pell Grants. 70% of those students get zero expected family contributions. If you have grown up as that is your life, you have grown up being explicitly and implicitly told that your voice doesn't matter. Because if your voice mattered, your life wouldn't look like it does. So we have to teach people, your voice does matter. Stand up, speak out. We will help you. We will stand with you until you are capable of standing on your own. That is so important. And then this goes back to what we talked about before, about the diversity of our institutions. We think you can be our kind without being our color. Right? Every ally is not going to share your pigmentation. Right? Every ally is not going to share your religion. We have gotten to a place in this country where we are out of control with tribalism. Right? I love my tribe, but I think I can develop tribes in other places too. And we have to stop fearing each other. Right? We have to start getting to know each other. Because once you get to know each other, you realize we all care about pretty much the same things. We want a safe place to live, we want a great place to go to school, and we want a chance to make enough money to take care of our families. Those aren't black issues, those aren't white issues, those aren't Asian American issues, those aren't Latino issues, those are people issues. Right? You can be our kind without being our color. You're going to need to know that too if you're a revolutionary, because everybody who fights on your side won't look like you. And everybody that fights against you might look like you sometimes too. Right? This is our formula. We preach hope, we practice patience, we instill resilience in our students, we teach them to be entrepreneurial in their thoughts and in their actions, and we lead with love. And I just want to take a moment right now and talk a little bit about how important it is to lead with love. When I first became president at Paul Quinn, I had just turned 40 years old. And I was stressed out because I inherited a school that had less than 30 days of cash on hand and was 18 months to 2 years from closing. And by the way, they didn't tell me that. Right? I mean, I knew things were tough. I didn't realize that we had less than 30 days of cash on hand, which brings me to my next point, and I want to give you a little bit of career advice. If people offer you a job that you didn't apply for, there's probably a catch, okay? There's a catch. Now, you might be one of those people that's sitting around thinking, listen, Michael, I'm amazing. People call me up all the time offering me jobs. You're also crazy, and you're an egomaniac, and pride goeth before the fall, okay? I was an entrepreneur at the time. I was part of a group that was negotiating to purchase an NBA franchise. We had actually gotten the agreement. I was going to get to be president of the franchise. I was going to have a part ownership stake in the company and the team. I was rapidly on my way to my Range Rover lifestyle, okay? And I get a call as I'm driving down the highway to scout Kevin Durant, for those of you that are basketball fans. And yeah, I forgot, this is the Bay Area. I'm not happy with him either for leaving, okay? And it's the new chair of the board. He says, we'd like for you to be president of the franchise. And I was like, listen, of the school. And I said, listen, I appreciate it, but I didn't apply for the job. And I'm moving to Memphis. We're buying a basketball team. And I have no idea what you're going to pay me, but they're going to pay me more, right? And he says, hey, you can do both. And I'm like, you can't do both. You can't be president of a school in Texas and president of an NBA franchise in Memphis. And you are a bishop in the AME church. You can't lie like that, right? And so he says, well, just think about it, right? So I thought, okay, I'll think about it. So I called my sister, and my sister is a 25-plus year veteran teacher in the Chicago public school system. She's an educator's educator. She is extraordinary. I go to her classes, and I am humbled by watching what she does. But she's also my younger sister. So there's some sibling stuff going on here, right? So I call her up. I'm like, sis, guess what? I just got asked to be president of Paul Quinn College. And she's incredulous. She's like, of course you did. She's like, you don't know anything about education. She's like, I'm the teacher. I'm the one. She starts going off. I was like, yes, but they didn't call you, did they, right? And she says, she's like, this is the most ridiculous thing. This is how your life works. She's like, she's like, you know who you are? I was like, yes, I'm the new president at Paul Quinn College, right? And she's like, no, you are the Black Forrest Gump. Stuff just happens for you, right? And so I'm like, this is kind of funny, sis, right? And she says, this is just, and my point in telling you that story is, you can never take yourself too seriously. right? Being a revolutionary is hard work, but it doesn't mean that you don't take a moment to stop, smell the roses, laugh, and take it all in. And then shake your head and get up and start swinging again. Keep that in mind. But I was stressed out as a young president. It was hard, right? And I got into an argument one day with one of my students. And I went home every day. This is part of what was the framing. We had 34 pictures of presidents on our wall. And I went home every day thinking I could be the last president at Paul Quinn. And, you know, historically black college killer, not the way you want your Wikipedia page to read, right? And so I was stressed. I got into an argument with this student, not my proudest moment. I will own that, right? I should have never done it. But we get into it, we yell, we scream, we cuss at each other. He gets in my office, sits down, and starts crying. I have no idea what to do with that, right? I don't. I grew up in Chicago. Male weakness is not, you don't see men crying on the streets of Chicago, right? So I was ill prepared for that. I messed up. I fumbled it. I had a staff member with me. She comforted him. She cared for him. She ushered him out of the office. She came back, sat down, and had a total look of disgust with me. And she shakes her head, and she's a quintessential Southern mother, right? She's just like, baby, I met your mother, and your mother was tough on you, but your mother loved you. You grew up in an environment of tough love, but you don't ever hear tough. You only hear love. She's like, one could argue, actually, you bear all the signs of someone who's been overloved. And I'm like, did you just call me spoiled? Right? And she said, I want to ask you a question. If you spent your life without knowing love, would you ever hear anything other than tough? She said, I know you love us, and I know you love this school, but if you want us to trust you, if you want us to follow you, you're going to have to learn to lead with love. The single best piece of leadership advice I have ever been given. The single best piece of revolutionary advice I have ever been given. Because we tend to get caught up in the bluster and forget that we are talking about people, right? Lead with love. It will make all the difference in the world. So this is our institutional goal at Paul Quinn College. We want to end intergenerational poverty, period. That's what we have come to do. But to do that, we realize that to serve those who have never been served, you must do what has never been done. This is by our Vice President of Academic Affairs. This is his quote, right? And he's absolutely right. So this is how we're doing that. We created our own version of higher education. We call it reality-based education. We created the urban work college model. You come to Paul Quinn, you live on campus, you get a job. The students are already working. What we've done is pulled them out of having to work jobs that compromise their academic abilities. If you ever have had to work all night and then have an 8 o'clock class, we all know you didn't have the 8 o'clock class you were supposed to have, right? That's not how it works. So we created a system where we help the students by getting them jobs that will help them have real-world work experience when they graduate. So we reduce tuition and fees because if the students are helping to work on campus and off campus, we can reduce the tuition and fees. We cut it by just about $10,000, right? So all it costs to go to Paul Quinn for everything is $15,750. That's it. Room, board, tuition fees. I always love it because people say, is that in-state fees? No, that's all state fees, okay? Doesn't matter where you're coming from, this is what you pay, all right? What that's allowed us to do is to reduce the average debt of our students by over $24,000, right? We have gotten it down to right about $15,000. We've now figured out a way where we think we can get it down to $5,000. And we're going to let it be about $5,000 because we think everyone should have a little skin in the game, right? $5,000, you can pay off $5,000, right? That's doable. Then our students graduate with 2 to 4 years of internship experience and cash stipends. Then we started playing around with the academic model. And you know, everybody trashes the liberal arts, right? Well, let's think about it. The liberal arts were made like almost the Stone Ages, right? Show me what was created that long ago that didn't need to be refreshed, right? It needed to be refreshed. So we decided we were going to refresh them. We called it the Quinnite Arts because we created it. If you had created it, you could have called it the CSU Arts, right? We beat you to it, okay? Here's what that means. Writing across the curriculum. Now, every course at Paul Quinn College requires students to write papers. All right? And depending upon what year you are in our academic cycle, that's what our expectations are, what you will learn that year. So it starts off with something as simple as learning how to write an email. And if you don't think we need to teach people how to write emails, you don't interact with students. Okay? So every course requires you to write papers. And it starts with emails and it finishes up with senior thesis. All right? So we're covering all angles in there. Secondly, and oh, by the way, we got these ideas from corporate America because we actually decided to ask the people who are hiring the students, what do you want the students to have? They looked at us like nobody's ever asked us that. It's fascinating the things that can qualify you as a revolutionary, right? Just good manners. What would you like to see, right? Who knew? Speaking across the curriculum, because corporate America said students need to be able to communicate well. So now every course requires you to stand up and give public presentations in class. Critical thinking across the curriculum. That's really working in groups to solve real world problems because again, corporate America, and when I say corporate, that's everyone, right? That's nonprofits, that's schools, everyone. We just call them corporate because it's easier than listing all the people we asked. They said that they need to be able to work in teams. And people don't work in teams well. I know that's a shocker to some of you, right? You have to be taught how to do that. So why don't we start teaching them at 18 years old so that by the time they get to the workforce, they're experts at it. And then the last one is building digital mastery. We live in a digital age. So students are going to have to be able to master digital concepts. And mastering digital concepts are not the filters on Instagram, right? It's a little more involved than that. But we doubled down on this one. We actually created a system where starting next year, every year, students have an opportunity to earn 1 to 2 digital certificates, right, that they can then use to translate into job opportunities. So just to put this into perspective for you, if you come to Paul Quinn College for less than $65,000 for 4 years of a college education, you graduate with 3 forms of education. Your subject matter expertise, which is what you decided to major in, 4 years of real world work experience, so it's your practical learning experience, and then 4 to 8 certificates, which you can then use to create more opportunities for yourselves. So here's why that's important, because if we lose you at any point, we're losing you after we've already given you an opportunity to be enriched because you have certificates which allow you to get jobs, right? You have something to show for your time there. This means, in effect, that we have poverty-proofed higher education because no matter how much time you spend with us, we're leaving you better than we found you, and that's what matters. Here's some other pieces of reality-based education. We have Summer Bridge program. Summer Bridge program means the students come in before their freshman year. They take 6 weeks of courses. They get 9 credit hours. The other thing about this is it's free. If you qualify for the Pell Grant, you don't pay anything. All right. The other interesting part about it, myself and the Vice President of Academic Affairs are their first professors. Right? The 2 of us spend 6 weeks, 4 days a week, 2+ hours a day teaching our incoming students. It has changed the texture of our institution because they know us and we know them. It's wonderful. We create a mental health culture. Every student that comes to Paul Quinn as a new student in the summers gets a mental health assessment, right? We have normalized mental health. We talk about it openly. Students talk freely. I need to go see a counselor. Cool, let's go get you to the counselor. I hold town hall meetings once or twice a year to talk about mental health. Listen, everyone has periods where they are in the dark. What is the crime is if you've never been taught how to turn the lights on. You don't have to stay in the dark. We are proud of this. We got rid of the Office of Career Development. We call it the Office of Prestigious Opportunities. I mean, listen, think about it. If you're a Pell Grant student, does anyone ever talk to you about prestigious opportunities? No. Sounds a lot cooler. I have a prestigious opportunity, right? We revised the academic calendar. Why do we come back to school after Thanksgiving? Like, what? It's 2 weeks. Everybody's miserable, right? They're stressed out. But think about this. If you're from a Pell Grant family, chances are, if you go home for Thanksgiving, you can't go home for Christmas because you can't afford it. So you've been forced to choose. So we have people sitting at Thanksgiving with people who have been kind enough to take them in, sitting there forced to realize that they didn't have the money to go home to see their family. So even when you think you're getting something good, it's turning into something bad. So we just stop it. We're like, let's just cut the semester at Thanksgiving. Send everybody home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. We just started a week or two early in August. You know who loves this system? The faculty. Right? The faculty is literally, I see them in the hallways in early December. They hug me. They ask me about my kids, right? Everyone is happy. The other thing it allows us to do, we're a small school. We have a rounding error for an endowment. This allows me to give my people bonuses because I can send them home 2 weeks early and it doesn't count against their earned time. It doesn't count against their vacation time. And everybody loves it. So we do that. The other thing is we now have a travel abroad requirement. You come to Paul Quinn College, you have to study abroad to graduate, all right? Because we think you have to teach students that they're part of a world, right? And they have to see that world. Now, we recognize not everyone can afford to do that. One of the things we did by ending the semester at Thanksgiving, we created a December term. So now our students have 2 weeks that they can go study. You can afford 2 weeks of studying overseas. You might not be able to afford a whole semester, but you can at least get your toe in the water, and it is making an enormous difference for our students. The other thing we did is we allowed them to substitute Native American reservations and tribal colleges because those are sovereign nations. That counts, right? So we've covered a lot of ground, and I've told you lots of cool stuff, but let me show you this stuff works. So first thing, we ended a food desert. We turned our football field into a farm because we were closer to the city garbage dump than we were a grocery store. Think about that for a minute, right? That's what happens when you have nasty racial legacies in a city, right? You build neighborhoods, which by the way are all black neighborhoods, in places that no one else wants to live. And one of the interesting parts about black colleges, they're all in black neighborhoods that were poor black neighborhoods. It's amazing how all that works, right? But we ended the food desert. We left the goalposts because we thought it was kind of funny. Here's some more evidence of our success. At graduation, not 6 months after graduation, at graduation, 84% of our graduates have jobs, right? If you are in the corporate work program, 100% of those students have jobs at graduation. We have a 71% retention rate, which, look, I want a 95% retention rate. But when I got there, our retention rate was about 33%. So this is what we talk about, like that long, hard winter of revolutionary change. Sometimes you hit a point and it just takes you a minute to jump back up. We're going to start jumping again. We lost 80% of our students in my first 2 years of being a college president. Since that time, we've grown 250%. So we're proud of that. These are some of our partners, big companies. They do great things. Lots of people get rich there. We're great to have them for partners, very appreciative. We opened up another campus. We have an expansion campus, PQC Plano. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. We have worked with BCG, Boston Consulting Group, created a replication model. We're going to open up urban work colleges all over America, right? That's our goal. We will be coming to a town near you. Not where you are, because we like you guys, right? But places where we're going to compete against, we're coming for them, all right? This is a quote from W.B. Du Bois that was from his Niagara Movement address that I thought was particularly poignant given what CSU is committed to doing. Either the United States will destroy ignorance or ignorance will destroy the United States. It's hard to believe that we're winning this fight when we're at war against our future. And then I wanted to, given the temperament of the country right now, I wanted to bring this quote by Václav Havel to your attention because it speaks to the decency and humanity that I think we all should have. And very quickly, I feel that the dormant goodwill in people needs to be stirred. People need to hear that it makes sense to behave decently or to help others, to place common interest above their own, to respect the elementary rules of human coexistence. We don't have to fear each other. We don't have to be so insecure that we attack that which is different than us. Our diversity is our richness. It is our cultures that make us special. All of you are here because you care about fundamentally the same thing, and that is this work. You are willing to be vulnerable. You are willing to put yourselves out there, no matter where you're from, because of this work to help students have the lives that they should have. That is what this quote is all about. And I just think we sometimes need to actually talk about these things, not in hushed tones, but in the bright of day, so that people understand that we will not back down. So we have covered lots of things, and this is an education-based system. So I've got a summary, the lessons of the revolution for you, so that you will know what we covered, right? Number one, remember you have to know your values. Have values and remember them. Number two, dream bigger dreams. You are trying to eradicate poverty. That's about the biggest dream you can dream. I may have to revise this model for you guys, okay? Y'all are already off the deep end of the pool with us, okay? Real recognizes real. Listen, you can't fake this stuff, all right? The students will know it. Your community will know it. Real recognizes real. You're going to stumble sometimes. You're going to fail at some things. So what? Fail forward. Use your failure as a springboard to your bigger success. We have failed in spectacular ways at Paul Quinn. And every time we failed, we went back and said, you know what? We weren't dreaming big enough. And we doubled down and went bigger, right? Number 5, be fearless. Lead as if you always have some place to go. Don't be small. Don't do small things. We tend to do small things when we think that all we have is the job that we have today. We need you to be courageous. We need you to be bold. We need you to attack these problems as if there's always going to be another job for you. If you wind up being conservative and laying it up, you won't end poverty and you won't serve your students well. All right? Be vulnerable enough to chase the biggest dreams. Always ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? Listen, don't fall in love with your own stuff, okay? Like, because we have a tendency, I came up with this great idea. This is the best idea ever. I'm always right. No. Be open to the possibility that you might be wrong. Develop some friends who will tell you when you are wrong. If everybody around you tells you that you're right, you are the boss. And your organization is about to fail. All right? You need people around you that will speak truth to power. It is an undervalued skill, okay? Number 7, don't be afraid to ask, what if the status quo is wrong? All right? In this country, Jim Crow used to be the law of the land. In this country, women used to not be able to vote. Those things were all status quo things. Somebody had to ask the question, what if they're wrong? And you know what? They were wrong. Don't be afraid to challenge conventional wisdom. You don't get to be a revolutionary by failing to do that. Number 8, know great love. Find something that you are passionate about. Something that wakes you up in the morning, something that motivates you, something that gives you strength and courage. And then spend your life chasing that. I'm betting, given what you're doing now, you have found that. And I applaud you for that. All right, because everyone doesn't get that. Savor these moments. And then last but not least, all revolutions have soundtracks. Right? They all have soundtracks. Right? The civil rights movement had a sound. Everybody has a soundtrack. So for my parting moment with you, we're going to find out what your soundtracks are. So let's find out what people's favorite songs are. Let's see here. You're first. Now, while you're trying to think this, here's something I have learned. There's your public consumption favorite song, and there's your really favorite song. Okay? We'll know right away which one you're giving us. Oh, don't check your phone. Right?
graduation.
Stairway to Graduation. Spoken like a trustee, okay? All right. All right, he bought you some time. What's your favorite song? You can't think of one? It's also amazing how people panic in that moment, right? I'll be back. Okay, let's see here. What's your favorite song?
All You Need Is Love.
All You Need Is Love. A great theme song. Very good. Thank you very much. I also don't believe you. All right. What's your favorite song?
I like hard rock, so.
All right. Are we talking Guns N' Roses hard rock? All right. Metallica. We're about to get her real favorite song. What's your real favorite song?
Bad Religion.
All right. Let's get. I like that. Thank you. What's your favorite song?
I'm going to give you one that I don't know that anybody remembers.
Let's
Bells of Rimney.
You win. All right. You win. Thank you for sharing that with us. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? What's your, you can't look the other way and think that'll mean I won't come see you. What's your favorite song?
You want the car one or the other one?
Well, let me ask you this question. How long have you had your job?
The job I'm in now?
Yes. Well, how long have you been with the system?
30 years.
Oh, so you're safe. Give me your real song.
I still like old school. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On?
What's going on? What's your favorite song?
I have one in Spanish, Soy Yo.
So you're. All right. I don't know it, but she's enthusiastic about it, so I love it. All right. I love it. Let's go. All right. What's your favorite song?
There's a Spanish song called Gracias a la Vida, which is grateful to life.
Grateful. All right. Let's get. I love it. I love it. Let's see. What's your favorite song? Two.
Taking Care of Business, Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Good song.
And Radar Love by Golden Earring.
I actually love that song. All right. Great choice. Let's see. What's your favorite song?
You know, I can't even think of the title, but the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young about sailing.
I don't know it, but I like Crosby, Stills, and Nash. All right, we'll give you a hand. What's your favorite song?
Okay, by Kirk Franklin.
Okay. It took us a little while to get to the church, but we appreciate your saved spirit. All right, we got time for two more favorite songs. Your glasses tell me that your favorite song is going to be fascinating. What's your favorite song?
I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's see. One more. The cameraman.
Roll with it, Steve Winwood.
Roll with the Steve Winwood. Let's give him a hand. So listen, what I really wanted you all to take away from this last exercise is that the work is the work, right? It's heavy, it's challenging, it's what we are here to do. It is our lives. This is not how this is supposed to go, right? Like, we just met, okay? But, all right, so I've got a collection of favorite songs. My all-time favorite song is, one favorite song? All right, so I was gonna give you the Heartstrings one, my favorite song, My Wife, but you shunned that, all right? So, no, I've got one, right? I'm trying to balance my public one, and so whisper your, I'll say mine if you say yours.
Yeah, you're good.
Now, she's like, I'm not playing with you, all right? So, one of my all-time favorite songs is a song, God, this is gonna tell you way more than you need to know about me. Annie Up by Mobb Deep. Yeah. It's a little rowdy, but I wasn't always a college president, all right? All right. So listen, thank you so much for the honor of being with you today. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being willing to engage in the lives of your students. And good luck, because you're going to be on a hell of a journey, and I am humbled to be a part of that journey with you. Good luck and take care. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
Next week's service will be at 2:30. Felt like we were in church in here. Let's give another round of applause to President Sorrell. We hope you enjoyed your lunch and our opening speaker. We have a full 2-day schedule ahead of us. We have a 15-minute break. We'll be moving right next door for grad talks, where we have 3 influential thought leaders that are going to help us think outside the box, innovation, and how we can be revolutionary leaders. So we'll see you back in 15 minutes right next door.